my big opening.
Thanks, Denise.
Yeah, right.
Who's Denise?
That's
But
our.
that's what
I
that's what
have
calls the
jokingly referred to the Zoom AI
Is
voice
she
announcers.
a Zoom AI?
I don't know.
Probably.
All right, so attendees are piling back in. Thank you all for bearing with us as we all got
This is
ejected.
yeah. It's a
Um,
Zoom.
as
You
I
know,
say in my
technology.
tech class that I teach, if any of you out there have taken it, Murphy's Law is a real thing. So if it can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Sorry.
Perfect example of that. We're all
I think
voice
it was funny,
actors,
like
not audio
that
engineers.
you said I'll be interrupted, Alyssa, and then Rachel came in and interrupted you, and then canceled the.
And then of course I said, and comedy is all about timing, and that was that. Like it just
Yeah,
ended, right?
Then that was
perfect.
But
So
I'm
everybody
actually
crapped out, not just me.
Everybody, it wasn't just you. Well,
That
it looks like
wasn't
we're
just
slowly
Rachel-
getting folks.
Oh
Rachel
my
pulled
gosh,
the
if we
plug
get
on
back
us.
in, God bless you. People are amazing if you can get back in. Like
I think Rachel pulled the plug on us. She was like, "Who are these
She
people,
did.
and why did I let them talk?"
Before they have a chance to say anything damning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're almost all back. We got 96 of 102. So if you want to continue your spiel.
so my spiel goes like this. Q&A. Use it. Chat to the panelists. Upvote your question if you like it. If you can't type as fast as some people, which I cannot. So here's the dealio, people. So why are we here? And it's a great question. And I think a lot of us coming out of the pandemic, especially, have done kind of a 30,000 and also like looking at us in the next room going, what the hell's happening? And so what we've noticed is that, it's true that everyone has they've start voiceover somewhere. Somehow you just get involved. Not everybody joins not everybody starts out union. If anything, we all are born non-union and we all have the opportunity to do non-union work. I've done non-union work 25 years ago or so. And then you join the union. And what happened was as teachers, these fine folks looked at resources online to help their class and help themselves and stay up to date on what's happening, and also to help their own careers. And what they've noticed is that, especially during COVID, it's been very troubling out there on the ether webs and very confusing. And all too often, too many of the opportunities out there end up going to what we refer to as the lowest bidder. So, and that person, that lowest bidder, that buyer, they, which I never used to call it a buyer, it's just the producer, the client, the signatory, they're taking advantage of actors and they're taking advantage of your skill set. And so it's kind of a whole conflated thing of ignorance that exists out there about what the union provides, as well as it making a lot of misinformation out there about the union. So you have people who aren't sure, and then just a whole bunch of people giving you bad information. And they could be people that you trust. I mean, it could be just a friend. It could be an agent who is misinformed, a casting director. It doesn't matter. But oftentimes on social media, that information just gets out there and it becomes detrimental to your career. And if it's detrimental to one person in a union, it's about the collective, it's going to be detrimental to everybody. And that means the whole industry is impacted when one person gets treated less or takes less. It just is kind of that snowball effect. So, we wanted to invite primarily from the Acting Studio of Chicago, but from everywhere else, because we shared this link with our friends and our social feeds, and existing voice actors to come and be informed on different benefits that the union has and learn ways to protect yourself when you're just starting out or when you're moving forward in this really crazy online technical world that we're in. So I think, Brad, you really summed it up. It's like if just to have a higher echelon of work to aspire to. And that's the thing, is we should all want to aspire to that. Oh, so wish there was a network job as they dwindle away into become digital, but just to aspire to do better work and to be treated better and to get paid fairly. So I think that's why we're here. And knowing that, we're not going to critique your demo. We're not going to tell you where to go get your demo made, what you should do is go to Acting Studio Chicago and call those pros and email them for all that good information about how do I begin and where do I start and how do I make a demo, because we're going to go right into intros. So if you don't mind, we're going to go to Miss Deb Dotzer, if you'd like to get off mute now.
I'm off mute. Hi, everybody. It was nice to see a lot of names that I know. I have been a member of SAG-AFTRA since 1997, the year many of you were born, probably, and a year before my oldest son was born. Actually, I was a member of AFTRA first, and then SAG, and then they merged. And so I only have to pay one set of dues, which is kind of awesome. I'm also a member of Actors Equity. I've been a member of Actors Equity since 1990, but I'm on a financial suspension right now, which means I don't have to pay my dues because I haven't worked an equity contract in a long time. My favorite thing, there's many favorite things about being in a union. Making a living is probably number one, but I would say number two is, and of course you have to earn your health care, and you have to be vested in your pension. But I would say, as I'm the oldest member of this panel, and I'm heading on that slippery slope toward, being old, I'm going to have a pension. Couple $1,000 that, I will get every month when I'm, 65. And, how many performers can say that? Well, a lot of them now, if they're in the union, but, it's really nice. And healthcare, you have to earn, and I don't know what the amounts are, Alyssa can tell you that, but you earn healthcare.
Just over 25K for healthcare right now.
Yeah. And as healthcare goes, it's pretty good. So those are some perks that I've found as I've aged into this business that have been my older son was an Actors Equity baby, and my younger son was a SAG-AFTRA baby. So there you go. And I don't even remember paying a dime out of pocket. I'm sure I did, but it was so minimal, it did not, make a large impact. So that's me. And that's when I joined SAG-AFTRA.
Thanks, Deb Dotzer. And we're going to move on down alphabetically to Miss Natalie Duke.
All right. Hi, I'm Natalie Duke. I have been a union member since 1988, and I was wee then. So I've basically been a union member for most of my life. I grew up in a very pro-union household, and I was told that, that's what you do. And I still agree to this day that that's what you do if you're a professional actor. Not to say everybody has to, but I have found that it has been very helpful for me for the same reasons that Deb said. I have moved into more audiobook narration in the past few years, and we're still kind of navigating, the different union contracts in the audiobook world, but one thing that I will say in this brief intro is that basically the union is constantly coming back and redoing these contracts. So somebody that maybe I started working with 5 years ago, this actually happened this year, came back to me and said, oh, hey, our rate is now such and such. And I was like, oh, I got a raise. Didn't even ask for it. So I know the union has my back in that way. And that's all I have to say about that. Next.
Thanks, Natalie. And then we'll move over to Brad Grosnick.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brad Grosnick. I have been in SAG-AFTRA since 2004. Back when it was both SAG and AFTRA. I joined both of them at the same time before the lovely merger. I worked in Chicago for about 6 years before living in Los Angeles for 11 years. So I worked in Los Angeles working on video games and animation and commercials and stuff, and then moved back to Chicago a couple of years ago. And now I sort of bridge both of those worlds. So I work in sort of all that stuff, but I'm kind of the animation video game person on this panel here today. And my favorite thing about the union is the collective bargaining. It is my favorite thing. And people are like, what is that? It essentially means that collectively, Brian and Alyssa and Deb and Natalie and I collectively with the union, get to negotiate our salary with the producers. I don't have to negotiate against Deb, who doesn't have to negotiate against Natalie, who doesn't have to negotiate against Brian. We collectively bargain for minimums, and those minimums are pretty fantastic. So we are guaranteed a wage, and that's what I love about it. That's me.
Thank you. And now that I've almost screwed up your name, I'm going to screw up Brian's for him. And Brian and I, like, I feel like we're family, and I still can't say your damn last name, but Brian Blaharczyk.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, that wasn't bad.
Thank you.
To be fair, I've been told by people from Poland that I pronounce my name incorrectly. So, you know, whatever. It's all good. Brian Blaharczyk. I have been a SAG-AFTRA member. You got it right. Yeah, it was awesome. I've been a SAG-AFTRA member, like many people on this panel, before there was a SAG-AFTRA. Joined AFTRA in 2004 and SAG in 2007. Work in Chicago, been working in Chicago since 2003-ish. Cover a little bit of everything in terms of types of voiceover, but for the sake of today's panel, my main bread and butter tends to be what we call corporate educational work. So long form, boring HR videos and things like that. And I think my favorite thing about being a member of the union, in addition to all of the great things that have already been mentioned, is I'm a education nut. I love learning things, and one of my absolute favorite things is the free ongoing training that's always available. The KMRC is a great resource to both members of Actors Equity and SAG-AFTRA. And there's lots of ongoing training that's always happening, and you can learn new skills and keep sharp, all without having to continue to pay for added resources.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And I'll just end, even though I'm out of alpha order. Alyssa Fraden, member since 1995, joined AFTRA and SAG on the same day. And my favorite thing is all of you. No, really, my favorite thing is the members, and that's why I volunteer and try to get as involved as possible. But I think what I most appreciate, given the topic of the discussion of what we're seeing, how people feel that they're being treated by clients and their agents and casting online, is I really appreciate the professionalism that comes with working a union job. Oftentimes I'll book in my home studio because of COVID, which I hate because I'm not an engineer. And I'll always hear the client like off mute going, "Oh, that's what it sounds like to be with a professional." And you're like, yeah, okay, guy, that's nice. Next time, next time just keep hiring me, because the rates are going to be just as equitable in most of the contracts that we have. So let's not undercut people. Let's figure that out. But I really enjoy, from, my agent to the casting to the engineer. And trust me, this is not professional. I can't wait to get back into the studio, into a real studio. But from all of those, there's an accountability that matches up to the collective bargaining that benefits the pension and health, that benefits the perks. All of that helps me feel like I am really conducting my business as a professional. That's just me personally. That's what I think that the contracts do for me. And I just want to do like a quick... Go for it, hon.
Alyssa, before we jump into the questions, I actually want to piggyback on what you just said there about professionalism and working as a union actor and creating that professionalism, and how that works with your pay. Is that because you are working a higher echelon of job and you are a vetted performer that knows what they are doing? I've worked jobs where I've actually made more money because I did the job quicker. So I did the job quicker, and then they're like, "Hey, you want to do a couple more voices? Oh, by the way, that's more money because we have minimums." So they pay you for more stuff and more voices. So just to hop on that, you can continue.
Thank you. So a lot of good questions are coming in. If you wanted to open up your Q&A and kind of look to see what some of the questions that we can loop in. I just want to make sure everybody, one of the things that people don't know about joining the union, and I think it's a little different, and feel free to chime in on what you all know, especially with audiobooks or with animation and gaming. But essentially you need one principal performer job. And in voiceover, that's considered in many contracts as being off camera. In the Chicago local, which we are all out of, our one-time initiation fee has been at, even since merger, and like it went down to 1,800. That's actually what I paid in 1995 for both my unions together. So with the merged union came a little discount because we slammed the unions together. So it's a one-time fee, and then it's a twice yearly dues. And when you join, you can actually now go to SAG-AFTRA.org, bookmark it, click around. You can join online. It's very quick, it's very efficient, and you should be able to, as soon as you have that one principal performer job, you get Taft-Hartley, which is a federal law that says, okay, you've 30 days to work as much non-union or union before you're a must pay. And then on that 31st day or that next job, you go online and you see your social security number and your member number and you pay. We have payment plans. You can pay a little bit at a time and keep working union. It's very fluid. I think people have a misconception of, oh my gosh, I have to pay $1,800 or $3,000. That $3,000 is when you work in LA or New York. And the word is work, not move. And it's called and you pay a step up fee when you come from, if you're in the Atlanta market watching us, you're going to step up to $3,000. If you're in this market, you're going to step up to $3,000 from 1,800. And when I say this market, I mean Chicago, the Chicago local. So it's just real simple, but people kind of think, oh my God, the dues, y'all, the dues are like $224 a year at this point, a year. I stopped drinking Starbucks. It's not a problem. And then when you work a union job, you have what's called work dues that go on top of that at a percentage, 1.575. And that's your dues payment. And that dues pays for our staff and all the contracts that get negotiated and all the benefits and perks that a staff brings, which are many and plentiful that we can get into. So unless I'm forgetting anything about joining, I wanted to get that misnomer and facts correct. Gentlemen, ladies, anything? You can say no. Okay. So one of the things that we've noticed out there is this agent question. So I'm just going to like throw it out to the panelists. Do you think it's necessary to have an agent as a VO today? And if so, why? And if not, what are the alternatives? Brian, let's kick it over to you. No?
Okay,
You're too busy
sure.
looking
Yeah.
at the Q&A, getting all...
No, I was looking at the Q&A, but I heard the question, and I'm down
Because you're
to answer that.
multitasking.
No, I think it all depends on what kind of work you want to do and what how hard you want to work to work. I have been fortunate that I've almost always had at least one agent that was doing the work of getting opportunities for me, getting me auditions. And in, like, I'll just speak to, my area specifically of, the corporate narration world. I would say that 80 to 90% of that work for me still comes through my agent. But I know in that world, there are tons of people that do that work and solely that work. The kind of the buzzword you hear is e-learning. That's kind of a subset of that type of VO genre where you can do that work without an agent. You can get that work on your own without an agent. It is possible to do that work and to market yourself and to get yourself out there and to make all the right business connections. But for me, I think, where do you want to put your work in? That's the question that I've always kind of asked myself. Do I want to work at being the best voice actor possible, or do I want to have the best, spreadsheet and email program that I can, I can spam a bunch of people with my services. So I think you can get work in the corporate educational world without an agent. But for me, I want to do more than just that work. So I think it's really essential to maintain that relationship. And frankly, I might be a rarity in this, but even when I do get jobs on my own, I still run them through my SAG-AFTRA franchised agent, because I know that the contract that I will have with that client will be ironclad and that I'm protected. So even if someone comes to me and says, Brian, oh my God, I haven't seen you in 10 years. I saw on LinkedIn that you're a voiceover actor now. My company is looking for somebody to do this video, or, I need someone to do an explainer thing for YouTube. I go, great. Let me get this set up with my agent. So I know that I don't have to be the bad guy. If they're like, well, but I only have 250, I can make my agent be the bad guy, and then I can still maintain that relationship with the client. So I prefer to do it that way, but that's just me.
Negotiation. That's a big deal with having a client. It's so weird, and I guess the hustle in non-union is you can negotiate your own terms. Well, we can only negotiate up from our scale.
Right.
Like, here's the floor, and we can only negotiate up. And so it's hard to talk about money as a human being, but and so your agent has to be like, no, this is a 15-year vet. I want him to be over scale, and I want these terms. So the contract sets the table and the floor. The agent kind of takes it over from there.
I'm going to jump in because I'm supposed to be the commercial person, which I forgot to mention. But having an agent for me, and I'm going to kind of, step on Brad's turf for a minute. Oh God, why do people keep calling me? And then my little face disappears. So, if you want to do a AAA, video game, if you want to make money doing commercial work, you're not going to get it on Fiverr or even any of the pay-to-play sites. And especially commercials, they're like a kind of a special entity. As a union performer and as a non-union performer, we have what they call conflicts. Okay, so a conflict is, and it's in voiceover as well as on camera, but I think it started mostly for, like, if I'm on a McDonald's commercial eating a McDonald's hamburger, nom, 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 this is delicious. They're paying me for my likeness to be the person who's eating the McDonald's, cheeseburger. If I'm like in a Wendy's commercial, nom, nom, nomming on a cheeseburger, and Burger King, it's going to get very confusing. So the union kind of says, okay, well, I'm the voice. So it's the same thing for the voice. So I'm the voiceover for McDonald's. So they pay me, and it's a conflict. So I cannot audition for Wendy's or Burger King. I'm kind of McDonald's bitch, if you will, until my contract ends. And I'm always the first one to lay down a swear word, because that's how I roll. That's how I roll, people. So that's kind of the deal, right? So let's say you're starting out, and Steak and Shake, who I have no idea if they're non-union, says, okay, we're going to do a $30,000 buyout, and it's going to be in perpetuity in every medium, across the galaxy. You don't really want to do it, but you're young and you're like, $30,000, that's a lot of money. Yes, I'll do it. So your commercial runs, you're like, that's my voice. I'm doing Steak and Shake. And then it goes away and you think you're never going to see it again. Years go by, you're with a SAG-AFTRA agent, and they're like, hey, McDonald's is going to book you for a commercial. You're like, yippity-doo. You go in, you do your McDonald's commercial. All of a sudden, that crazy little Steak and Shake commercial comes up. And somehow the McDonald's people get wind of it. And all of a sudden, they're like, hey, did you ever do a Steak and Shake commercial? You're like, yeah, but I did that like 10 years ago when I was non-union. They're like, yeah, but you signed a contract that said in perpetuity. The words you don't want to see in a commercial contract, because that means forever.
In any contract, those are the devil words.
Yes, but with an e-learning contract, like, it's not there's no conflicts, right? I could do a McDonald's, industrial e-learning. I could also do a Burger King e-learning, right? Nobody's ever going to be like, that's the same person who was on, but a commercial is a big deal. So I'm probably saying this all wrong, and Alyssa's going to jump in and correct me, but so basically you're like, oh no, and then it can create all sorts of bad juju, right? So if you do start out in the non-union world and you don't have an agent, it's going to be very hard for you to cross out those words in perpetuity and go, I want an end date. How long are you going to run this? A year, 3 years, 5 years? I want to see that on the contract. I don't want in perpetuity. Having an agent, even if you're non-union, that agent will not allow that to happen. And if the client is like, we're not budging on it, the agent will make you well aware of that. And they'll also probably say, I wouldn't take it if I were you. It's really not worth the money. So, an agent takes over, like, I know we all teach at acting studio. I teach elsewhere. And the biggest thing is nobody understands that this is a business, right? So I don't want to negotiate a contract. So that's why I have an agent. Not to say that you can't use those other places to get work, but just be smart about it. Just know where it's going to air, what it's for, all that good stuff.
So, Deb, I just want to, before we go on, I just want to say with conflict, it is very interesting. So I also do on camera. I know it's surprising, but that can be a conflict as well in the sense that, and print, also surprising. But I had done a Walgreens print job, and my agent was like, yeah, you can't go out for anything because everybody sees your face on Walgreens. They already think Walgreens owns you. So there's this perceived conflict. So I know, like in voiceover, what's happening and we see you, but you think we don't see you, is that we're all hiding in our basements and our studios. But at the end of the day, you have to have your integrity, if you're in the non-union world and the union world, to say, I have that conflict. And the thing about a commercials contract with conflicts, and it does hold up in commercials contracts, is you have to keep track of what's out there because they're paying what is called a holding fee for broadcast. But that might end up going over into internet new media, depending on the negotiation. They want their money's worth. And so if you're going to pay $30,000 to a non-union performer who might not get paid for 6 months, or it might run for 5 years, or if I'm going to pay $30,000 to a union person, I know when the end date is, I know the pay per play, I know the rates, and I also know they're not going to go do another spot with their voice and sell it, and there's not going to be that conflict. There's a sense of integrity that goes along with that handshake deal. Now, is that going to be forever? To Brad's point, we have collectively bargained agreements. Our contracts are negotiated every 3 years, not all at the same time, but and so things change. I've noticed some, and I want to circle back with this agents thing, but a couple of questions just to point out. People were wondering, is the union doing anything about signatory work, and how is that? How are you organizing? So again, SAG-AFTRA.org, we do have an organizing mechanism. Currently, we have an ongoing campaign called Ads Go Union. Does everybody know about it? No. They don't know about it because we're all kind of like in our own place with our blinders on. You have to be engaged and you have to get active and you have to want to learn about these things. And what we have is Ads Go Union at SAG-AFTRA.org. If you see a non-union job for $20,000 and it's McDonald's and they're asking you for non-union for 5 years in perpetuity, right, send it to Ads Go Union at SAG-AFTRA.org. And the staff that my dues pay for will call them up and say, yeah, that should be a union spot. And that's the thing, is this really is about the collective. It's about, having each other's back. That when I see a commercial breakdown or I see a corp ed breakdown, I know that can be what we refer to as flipped. How do you do it? Somebody asked in the chat or in the chat or whatever it is, Q&A, like, how are you doing it? How do I bring my non-union clients over? Well, if you have an agent, they'll help that client make that change. But you don't need one because corp ed is like a single contract deal and you can do it through a paymaster. It's super simple. You just give them a round budget. Now, I say that here right now, but maybe it will get complicated. But if you go to SAG-AFTRA.org or if you call staff and ask what the budgets are, maybe your non-union client will fit in and they won't even know that they're paying a union contract. Because it's really about the rate that's been set by the union over time is become the floor, the area standard. And what we're seeing online is everything going lower and lower. Mm-hmm. We're still up here. We all should be up here, union and non-union. Why should we give something away for less when it's worth this much by the industry? So that's my preach to the conflict thing. But I want to say, so where is it not necessarily? Somebody, I think, said there's a lot of non-union also in animation and gaming. So Brad, do you
I did see that in the chat. I think that is actually a total misnomer. Like, if you want to do an animated series that is, on Netflix, Nickelodeon, Disney, Disney Plus, Amazon, Hulu, any place where there's an animated series, that is union. Animation is mostly union.
Mm-hmm.
Non-union animation, anime dubbing, which we are in the process of trying to organize more anime dubbing, especially now that a lot of anime dubbing is going on Netflix and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We are working to do that, and there is a lot more that was primarily all non-union, and now more and more, because there are SAG-AFTRA actors who have high profiles who started doing anime dubbing, are now high profile SAG-AFTRA actors. They still want them in their anime, so they're, you know, the rising tide raises all boats. So, you know,
Are you
that's
able
something
to
that
get some? Are you able to get auditions? I don't know how it works online with like the pay to play sites and casting sites, but do you need an agent for animation and interactive?
for animation, you know, if you want to be doing like those upscale jobs, especially if you want to be doing AAA video games, yes, you need an agent. If you're, you know, just trying to get on like an indie mobile game on your phone, a lot of that stuff is, you know, non-union, but there's not a lot of like full voiceover in that. There's not a lot of full performance because they're just not doing it in those little mobile games. It's just little, you know, efforts and that sort of thing. So occasionally that stuff is posted on those sites. You know, the animated corporate videos, like that's something that's animation that, yes, that's not what you're talking about. But I'm guessing that when you're saying animation, you're talking about being on an animated series, being in a Pixar movie. When you're talking about video games, you're talking about stuff that's on PlayStation and Xbox and, you know, things like that.
So what about the like the low budget interactive contractor, like just getting it?
So
Because somebody has said
yeah,
here that they have an animation demo, and I appreciate the shout out, Rachel. How much is a demo these days, you guys? I have no idea, but so we could get to that. But do you get any animation or interactive work here?
it's very little. I'm gonna be honest with everybody here, since we're, you know, talking about that. I'm getting sunshine in my face, pardon me. Most of the animation and video game work is out of Los Angeles. That's just because that is where the industry is, so that is where they are doing the work. Every once in a while an agent here will get an animation job. There are, you know, casting directors that do send out a wide net across the country. You know, I know Deb booked something you know, through New York just this year, from here. So and video games, it's the same way. Like every once in a while something will come through, but most of the stuff for that work is out of the LA market. So it's not unheard of for it to come through Chicago. It's just it's pretty rare.
Yeah, I wanted to circle to, or maybe it's just I'm going across on my screen. I'm not circling. Natalie. Now, Natalie has a huge frickin' commercial voiceover career, and she also like is a badass singer. Like she's just a triple threat in the vocal category.
Oh, I'm
But
blushing.
you should. But and your dad's here, so I'm saying it so he knows like his, you know, it all was for the good. But I just you're killing it with audiobooks. You found your wheelhouse. Like, let's talk about that, because more people I talk to are like, oh, I could never do audiobooks. I'm one of them. So talk us through like how you get those jobs. Do you deal with your agent? What's that about?
Okay, well, let's start with the agent question first then, because audiobooks is one part of the voiceover world where it does not really go through an agent. Some agents will occasionally cast audiobooks, but I have amazing agents. I'm with Stuart for all my, you know, commercial stuff and anything that's not audiobooks, but I have booked every single audiobook outside of my agency, and that's the norm. So you do not need to be looking for an agent for audiobook work. However, I do agree that, yeah, you need an agent for commercial stuff. What were the other questions? There was a bunch of them. How do you get into audiobooks and stuff like that? Okay, so here's the deal with audiobooks. They are difficult. It's challenging. It's a big challenge, but it's steady work. It is a constantly growing industry, okay? Even, you know, every year it's growing, you know, doubles in growth, basically. And obviously people were, you know, home a lot during the pandemic, listening to audiobooks. And so I luckily was not one of those people that hurt for work during the pandemic. Very thankful for that. But you have to love to read. You have to listen to audiobooks. You do have to have a really nice home studio. And there is a learning curve. It takes a while to kind of get into the industry, but honestly, I've been a professional voice actor, I mean, like full time for probably 10 years now. And my work now is mostly audiobooks. And I don't really have as much of the ebb and flow in my career. I've got things lined up. So, that's a nice thing to have, a nice thing to know. I'm not, constantly waiting for the next big commercial job or whatever.
Are you still auditioning for that stuff though?
I do. And I still do commercial work. I do. But the majority of my time goes to audiobooks. But, when I was doing commercials, kind of like, I like to do commercials as well, but I feel like I'm more creatively fulfilled doing audiobooks. I'm telling a story. I'm becoming, many different characters in one book. So as an actor, I like to do that work more. I don't hate the paychecks for commercial work, but that's what I really enjoy doing. And I feel like I really did kind of find where I'm supposed to be in my career with audiobooks. You also asked about getting the work. That's a really big question. A lot of narrators start on acx.com. It's an open audition platform. You can go there and look around. You can audition for stuff if you feel like you have a good enough home studio. And there's also, if you want to get started in audiobook narration, a really great website to go to is narratorsroadmap.com. It's run by a fellow narrator, and she has a million, like any question you could possibly have is on there. Did I hit everything?
I think you did. There are some questions directly to audiobooks in the Q&A if you wanted to take a look at that. But I kind of wanted to ask some really great things. I think what this is really all saying is, as it's changing, you're not just a commercial voiceover. You're not just an animation voiceover. You're not just, the genre of voiceover is blending. We're doing a lot of different types of voiceover, quite possibly accelerated because of the pandemic. We can do more. And the tech part of it is much more fluid. You could get a really good mic for not a lot of money. Whereas back in the day, we had to have the Neumann, we had to have the Sennheiser, you had to have certain things. Again, don't want to be an engineer. I rather pay my engineers, but I think there is something to be said about these genres blending, and what the union is doing that people don't actually see, and Brad, you touched on this, is we organize the entire Netflix company, basically. So anything that's scripted content, so any writer, everything is union. All the actors, all the voiceovers. And within that, we were able to negotiate in dubbing, which is huge because Netflix is worldwide, multiple languages. And what's happening is casting directors, especially in LA, are like, whoa, wait a minute. I got tons of actors who can do this work, and it's all union. So it's a great little genre to get into if you do dubbing. I don't know the dubbing contract really well, but it's if you check the site again. But we're also working towards what Natalie just talked about, was maybe almost 10 years of work to where most audiobooks, 90% of the audiobooks out there, are covered by our union contract. And they're becoming more, and the rates are coming up, and the terms are becoming more focused, and everybody now is operating at the same level. And it's very exciting to organize stuff when people aren't watching it. We are also organizing podcasts. And I know somebody had asked a question earlier about AI. And when I say that, they sent it in, about AI and technology. And one of the brilliant things that a union can do is say, no, you can't use this person's voice without negotiating for it. which is really hard to say if you're on your own, or a non-union agent who's just like, I need 40%, where a franchise agent's like 10% at this rate, and we're done negotiating. I think it's interesting to know that with AI, we have a must consent clause that says you must talk to the performer and to the union to make sure where that is, it jumping into a different genre, a different contract, are different terms applied. So that's the good thing about these collectively bargained agreements. I'm going to go back to the CBA there, Brad, is we're organizing new work. We know that work is changing, because in the chat people are like, well, where are the signatories? And where they're still there. They're just being bought up by bigger companies and creating a lot of non-union shops. So how do you stop that spread of non-union, not spread non-union at a really low rate like Fiverr, which we would never organize. There's no point in organizing that. But where are you finding these jobs, and what do you think of the pay-to-play sites that are out there? Can you list some good sites that you think are out there? Anybody can answer this. Brad, Brian, you're up.
Yeah. So, well, I just want to kind of jump on the Fiverr thing, because we've gotten questions here in the panel, and I've gotten questions personally in my classes. The thing with Fiverr is it is a bid to the bottom. That's what Fiverr is. It is a bid down. All people are trying to do is they are trying to get the best possible voice for the least possible money. That's what they're trying to do. Do you want to be the least possible money? Do you want to be the lowest common denominator? Is that really what you want? No, you don't want to do that. You want to do, bigger, better, more things. You want to be able to, my wife always jokes that cartoons paid for our wedding and video games paid for our house. Like that's the stuff that you want. And you're not going to do that when you're on Fiverr. You're just not. That being said, everybody's got to start somewhere. We know that. We know everybody's got to start somewhere. And there are those pay-to-play sites out there for non-union folks. The sites that I always recommend for all actors starting out, Actors Access. Actors Access. If somebody wants to type in the Brian or Deb, if you want to put that in the chat for me. Actorsaccess.com. So it is a free site. You pay to upload your materials. So essentially you are paying to host your headshots, your reel, your demos, those things. And then they have lists of auditions for both union and non-union actors. Actors Access. Casting networks. That is something that also agents use as casting networks, because casting directors use casting networks and they cast through that website. That's another one where both union and non-union things are listed. That's a great place, aside from Voiceover, to build your resume, do short films, do student films. There's low budget agreements where there's people who are looking for actors, so you can build your resume and do that stuff. And backstage.com. There's a lot more theater on Backstage, but there are films, there are the occasional voiceover thing on there. And that's what I'd say as far as legitimate sites. I could tell you, that there's pay-to-play sites out there that some are better than others, but they're still pay-to-play sites. You're still paying for auditions, and I've got lovely sunshine lines on my bald head. My halo of sunshine here. So that's what I would say, is seek out the legitimate sites first before you give away the whole farm on Fiverr.
And just to piggyback on that, I mean, yes, we all have to start somewhere. There are non-union agents in town that you can certainly, I mean, I know Alyssa said, she was non-union, I was non-union. We don't pop out of the womb as a SAG-AFTRA member, unlike maybe Natalie did, but that's pretty rare. And don't sell yourself short. One, when I'm recommending, pay to play sites, because you got to start somewhere. And if you're, getting an agent can be very competitive these days, right? So, but a lot of people go, well, I'm not ready for an agent. Well, why not? You know what I mean? Put together a demo, get out there. You may be exactly what they're looking for, right? So there's no, you don't have to wait to get an agent. And, but do your due diligence with the pay to play sites. Like, voices.com is the evil overlord. Voiceover, they want you to pay like $5, I don't even know, like some platinum rate BS.
$3,000.
Yeah, that's crazy talk. there's the voice realm, which should check it out, but I mean, it was reasonably priced. It's all non-union. You know what I mean? So there's no dicking around there, and they list their rates. To me, that seems fair. You go, is that worth my time and energy to do that? The rates don't suck, right? I'm starting out. I know what I'm going to get paid. But as you increase, even if you do Fiverr, know your worth, you can always go to the SAG-AFTRA website and look up the contracts. It's can be a little squirrely. There's also, I don't know if we're going to talk about the global voice actors
Feel free.
guide, GVAA. Brian, would you type that in while I'm chatting?
Yeah, I have links. I'll drop it in the chat.
So
Drop some links.
That's also a bunch of non-union actors who, even though there's a union, they're kind of but they're like, no, that's crazy talk. We don't want to work for that. That's bad. So there are places out there where you can, and I always say to my students, and I say this too now, shoot an email to acting studio and go, the questions you should ask yourself as a non-union actor are, what is this for? Where is this going to be played, right? If it's a training film and it's only going to live in Motorola, okay. Is it a commercial? Is it going to be aired? Is it going to be on every medium, radio, TV, the back of somebody's, thing on the airplane, on the internet? That's a lot of usage, right? Then you're going to maybe want to ask for more money. Who's the client? Is it a McDonald's or a Walmart on a pay-to-play site? Screw you. You have the money to pay a really good rate. You know what I mean? So know your worth as you start, and do the research. Like, okay, if I was in the union, I'd be making this. I'm starting out, but I'm not going to just do it, for free. Do stuff. I mean, if you're in school, do stuff for free, but don't, know your worth. Get paid what you're worth. And if you've never taken a class, I'm not trying to, well, it is through acting studio, but take a class. If you're just trying to kind of navigate it on your own, it's a lot. The business part is a lot. So, and take it from a place like acting studio where, you're going to be talking to people who are not going to, send you down the garden path.
Right. I always tell students, like, you have to realize that there's the business of voiceover, and then there's the business of people trying to sell the business of voiceover. And there's a big difference, right? And anytime somebody, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, which I know we kind of talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but none of us are in any way, shape, or form speaking with absolute certainty from the point of knowing everything there is to know about the union. We are just union members, sharing our experiences. But from my opinion, what was my opinion? I lost my train of thought. Damn.
I know, because you're trying to listen and answer these amazing questions. And I think what some people are trying to figure out is, okay, so there's union and non-union. Do I want a union agent? Do I get a non-union agent? How do I get a union agent? Is there enough union work today? I think someone said, I don't think the kind of work that we did back in the 90s and the aughts is still there. But I actually wonder if that's true, because to Deb's point, so the union tracks all union work, unique, residual, everything. We know to the penny, nearly, how much money, how much revenue is being made by each unique member. And we can then test that or look at it comparatively to decades of work. And Deb, you said something really interesting. And this goes for any genre of voiceover. As technology has grown, I've always asked these three questions. What's the content? What's the intent? And what's the platform? And I've been doing that since 2009, when we went into a contract negotiation from a freely bargained internet new media language to setting a floor, because people were undercutting. We were undercutting ourselves with our agents because we didn't have a rate. And I said, what's the intent of this? Am I selling something, or is it corp ed? What is it? Now everything is branded content. So you have to really ask, what is that content? What's the intent? Is it selling something, or is it promoting something, or is it just out there for no reason? And what's the platform? Like, it's on social media and it goes down the feed and you never see it again, or it has to have that audio play, automatic audio play. And we know that Apple, you guys, with their new OS, has screwed up Google's algorithm so much, because now you're not going to, if you turn that setting on with the new OS, you're not going to get the ads just because you're talking about the shoes and they're listening. It's screwing with advertising so much. So if you ask those 3 questions, and then there's just so many platforms out there, and so many platforms that need to have content put on. It doesn't matter what it is, just to validate it. Content might not even be that good. But that really good job, I think what we can all agree to here, and that the union strives to do, is say, here's the rate. We protect you. AI language, hello, protection out the wazoo, and says we're going to protect you and your voice for the length of this term. And when it moves around to different platforms, you get paid for that. That is something really hard to harness as a non-union performer, to say, oh my gosh, it's going to play on local cable in Texas, but then it's going to be on the radio in New York, and then it's going to be on cruise ships, and then, oh my gosh, it's going to play in English language foreign markets. I mean, you can just imagine. Oh, and then of course before the movies, and then in between on the DVRs, it floats through on your HBO Max buffer. It's like, we see it and we have it covered. So we know what it's worth. And a franchise agent, and I can put the link in the chat, a franchise agent gets those memos from the union saying, this is the new agreement. These are the new terms. You got a question, call us free of charge. We're going to tell you how to pay that performer. And you can be a non-union performer at a union franchised agency and still be represented and still get those union auditions. I know that's a lot. I know that was a big preach, but unless we want to piggyback on that, I still think we need to kind of narrow in on the fact that a lot of markets don't have agents or really good agents. And so what do you guys recommend people do? Get agents in other markets, pay to play sites? What is it that, because I wouldn't know what to do.
Before we do that, just to quickly piggyback on what you were saying there,
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of people like, how do I get started? How do I get an agent? Because union franchised agents also take on non-union talent, that is a great way to get into the union. Because if you have an agent who represents both union and non-union talent, they will send you on both non-union and union auditions. So when you book a union job, then you can join the union. That's the best way to get in and get that one union job that you need to join the union. All right, but moving on to other.
Yes, but don't let them keep you sitting there at the non-union. When you're brilliant, you should
ask for union auditions.
Yeah, don't just sit there making them 40% on your $100 job.
Melissa, can you clarify that? Because I don't think I know from previous conversations that I've had with students, they don't understand. You just said 40%, but my non-union agent told me that they take 20%. So what do you mean by 40?
So okay.
Sorry, playing the student role, and all of you out there that have had me a class.
I think I just put in the franchise agent search bar at SAG-AFTRA.org. So a franchise agent is somebody who has a contract with the SAG-AFTRA saying that they will abide by the rules of that contract. Therefore, exclusivity and so forth and so on with you and your agent is okayed by the union. You don't just sign some random piece of paper. One of the agreements is that you pay a commission of 10%, but you don't, on some contracts, it's invading scale. You do a plus 10. So you get your gross earning, and then your agent gets 10% of that gross. You can get more. You can always get more on the gross part. Like if the rate is 500, but you're, Brian, you get 800, instead of getting $50, they're going to get $80. Right? So they get 10% of whatever they've negotiated. And and they get 10% in commercials on every reuse or residual. And in Corp Ed, it's a one-time unless it's been renegotiated and customized. Ooh, renegotiations, those are always pleasant. Those are the best. Those are like gifts from the, gods. But they can only take 10%. And so what happens oftentimes, even on these pay-to-play sites, which you guys might have talked to me about, how somebody will take David, whatever his name is, takes money and then says, this is what the job is. Your non-union agent will say, here's your clear rate. Like, here's $500. The job was actually $1,000, but you never knew it was $1,000 because your agent talked to the client and the client's like, I got $1,000. You're like, great, I'm going to take 20 up front and 20 behind. They're going to clear, I don't know, maybe 600. So that's the clear rate. And so that's why it's 40%. They're taking some at the top to book you and some at the top after you've done the job.
But if you are with a SAG franchised agent and you book a non-union job, can that SAG franchised agent take more than 10%?
They're not supposed to, but only people need to know when they read the rules. And then you call one of our amazing staff people on one of the offices and they go, yeah, that's not how that works. And then they call up and they say, you're franchised, you can only take 10%. And it seems super horrible. And yes, we would love to renegotiate that franchised agreement and get them more and get that updated. That is not something we enjoy, but at least we know that what we're working for and you're not getting taken. I know what my rate is. I know the 10%. I know what my gross is going to look like. I'm not going to go buy a car until I start seeing residuals like flow. No, I'm kidding. Anyway,
can I interrupt, or do you have?
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of things in the Q&A and I almost feel like we have to address the elephant in the room.
Oh, well, if you're going to, I was going to say, can we like get to that though?
Okay, we can get, you've got a master plan.
Well,
I didn't know.
I have the agenda and I'm trying to I want to get to
kind of even it. All right.
Well, I want to get to that magic moment of the scam because Deb, you put in the GVAA rates. That's a group of people. Oh, my other question, it kind of goes with it. You're in a market that doesn't have a franchised agent or a legit agent. So you're out there on pay to play and you see these GVAA. What are some scams that we see out there? What should people go red flag? Because social media, we say anything we want. On social media, I say I'm 6'5" and a blonde, but I'm not. You guys, clearly. Like, what are some things to look for, Brian? You're off mute if you want to. I just want to know what are some things. I know. Get off of the Q&A. What are some scams that are regularly seen out there that people can say, you know what, red flag, don't do it?
Sure. We were just talking about agents. A real common one is if an agent asks you to pay anything up front. If an agent asks you to, make any kind of contribution up front, that's a red flag. That means that they probably don't have your best interest at heart. Recently I was trying to figure out ways to kind of bolster and change my auditions and trying to increase my corp ed work. And so I found a group that was selling themselves as a headhunter service for voiceover. And I was like, oh, well, if this works like a corporate headhunter, that makes sense. Like the person that is looking to fill the job is paying a fee to this company to go out and find the best candidates, right? And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, they're acting kind of like a corporate casting director. So let me see what this is about. And so I sent them my materials, and they said, we would love to take you on as a premier talent, and all it's going to cost you is $550 a year. And so I went, okay, well, I guess that could be like paid marketing. So I did my due diligence and I reached out to some folks. Someone I knew was listed on their website as one of their premier talent, and I said, hey, you're doing real well. Like I know that you have some major accounts in commercial and corp ed. So like, why are you doing this? Found out that person got a free account because they just wanted that name recognition on their website to say, yeah, look, we've got this person. And so as I got more and more information back from people that I reached out to, I found out that everyone that had encountered this company had a negative experience where they sent their money off, sent their $550 off, and never heard back from the company. ever again, unless it was to renew their their marketing strategy. So that's another one. There's another big scam that's out there that I know it happens to a lot of the non-union folks because they're negotiating jobs themselves where there's an overpay. So say you agree to do a job for $500 and the client sends you $650, and then you get an email and they say, hey, we overpaid you. Can you just send that money back to us? And you're ended up paying back that, and then you find out that the money never cleared and never got in your bank. And so that's kind of a beginner ruse to kind of know about. The game show scam. Thank you, Martin. Exactly. I think buyer beware with everything you do. Always do your homework, make sure that you are looking into everyone and everything that you're doing business with. If you're asked to pay money for something, I understand, like that. As I was just answering someone's Q&A question, there was somebody said something about, it's tough being non-union and you might not have as many opportunities if there's, a lot more non-union work wherever you are, or what the case may be. But how do you get yourself out there? Do you use Fiverr? Well, as has already been discussed, maybe you need to do that when you're starting out and you just need some opportunity, but learn your worth and climb up from there. Direct marketing is a way to handle this stuff. Try to reach out to your network, to the people you know. You never know who actually needs someone, right? Try to find those opportunities to do work for people that first and foremost, and then go from there, kind of building up. Because if you're just throwing money out there and you don't have the training to back it up, you're kind of in a lose-lose situation. I hope that's, I don't know.
You know what, Brian, that makes me think, because we were talking early on, people were talking about like organizing work and so forth, and who I knew. So I knew this. I had a friend from my kid's school, and he, this is not a joke, you guys. He bought a dispensary license because the state of Illinois has now it's recreational. So he's investing in it, and he goes, hey, I want to do some radio spots. Will you do them for me? And I said, well, not without a union contract. And he goes, all right, well, what do I need to do? And he signed just the radio contract, and he had me do local radio spots, which actually didn't cost him a lot of money to do, because we didn't have to even be in the studio that long. I helped him like clean up, like tighten up the copy, right? Like he wasn't prepared to do it, but he knew he wanted a good voice. He knew he just didn't want to go. He didn't even know how to audition. It was just a friend. And it was so great. I turned it around and I said to my agent, here's 10%. Just take care of it and make sure the check clears, It was just easier that way. But even that contract, the audio contract that we have, and I put contracts as a resource in the chat as well. We have a variety of contracts. Each one has a voiceover component to it, and there's a voiceover link as well. And you can see, and we can find that rate, because that's the thing, is like, what do you charge for something? So Natalie, you were talking about ACX and starting out, and now you have these contracts and you find out you get a raise. I mean, is there something, a going rate? Is there something people should know about any of these pay-to-play sites with audiobooks? Because I know Ahab has like come onto the scene, billed as from Penguin House, I believe. But can you like talk about pay-to-play on that side of the microphone?
Well, I mean, pay-to-play sites are pay-to-play sites when it comes to voiceover. I mean, Ahab is legit. If you go on to ahab.com, and that's not a pay-to-play.
That's free.
Yeah, it's free, and they'll straight up, they'll put up auditions, and they're real auditions. And if you are a union member, you'll get your union rate. As far as union rates go for stuff like that, I mean, honestly, and I do occasionally teach a class at Acting Studio. I haven't in a bit, but I will again, I promise. I tell all my students, like, why would you want to take anything less than the union minimum rate? It's usually about $200 per finished hour. Okay. So, usually a bit higher, but that's probably around like the low point. Okay, well, per finished hour, that's not an actual real-time hour. But the more experience you have, the more quickly you can get that finished hour complete, and you start making more and more just, naturally with experience. But why would you want to take something less? Maybe for your first book or two, just to like find out what it's like. But otherwise, if you're just starting out and it takes you 7 hours to get a finished hour of audio done, do you want to be making $4 an hour? You're a pro. You don't want that. So there's really, I mean, to me, honestly, I don't see why anybody would want to do audiobook work that's not going through the union, unless they just don't need health care and pension. So, and maybe you don't, and that's fine. But, if you're going to get it, if you're going to be making the same amount of money anyway, put it through the union. Seems like a no-brainer to me. That's about all I got for that.
Well, I just didn't know if pay-to-play sites
I'm sure that there's plenty of audiobook stuff out there, I'm sure. I've never gone to look at any of it, because I just feel like people who are actually doing audiobook work professionally, they know that that's all garbage. And even if you find an audiobook job on something like Fiverr, and you think, okay, this is great, you're going to get into it and you're going to be like, this is terrible. This is so much work for so little money. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but there certainly are scams though in the audiobook world. On ACX, on that website I linked, they talk about that some. That's another kind of bigger topic, but you can normally, you'll find out before you start getting into the work if something is a scam or not. If it reads like it's been translated to 12 different languages and back again, probably a scam. If it's on ACX and it's like the Da Vinci Code on ACX or something like that, that's not real. Stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, every part of it, there's going to be somebody trying to make a quick buck. The other thing that I think is very much like obviously a scam is anybody who's like, make millions of dollars in audiobooks or make millions of dollars in voiceover overnight. Like, no, that's not anybody who is, worth listening to is going to say, no, it's hard work. And yeah, you can be successful, but you have to put the work in, and not everybody's going to make it. And if somebody is telling you it's super easy, they are lying, and do not give them your money.
They are lying.
That is true.
That is true. I want to say, you said something, you're like, why wouldn't you do union? I will say this. We live in a country that has lost its way when it comes to labor. And there are anti-union people that as a culture of a society, and anti-union corporations. And it takes a certain person with, and I say this word, it's like integrity. It's like, I get you. You don't want to pay into my pension and health. I get that you don't want to adhere to the 1 hour studio time. I get that, I get that you want to pay me less. But if I'm the voice that you want for this project, this is how I'm going to do it. And they don't have to be pro-union to sign that contract for that job. Commercials, yes, it's a big, same with like AAA games, all of that. These are big time, big studio, big advertisers. You should never take less, and you shouldn't take a buyout that's never going to pay you. That's why you should send everything to Ads Go Union for commercials. And if you want, you can send everything to Ads Go Union, because it's one big happy staff family. They can send it to the right person to enforce and organize that job. But I just think it's really interesting. Some people just don't want to support unions, and so you can't change that person's, core. That's what they believe in. And that's what happens in right to work states. You guys, Illinois is a union secure state, but our brothers and sisters over in Indiana and Wisconsin are right to work. And they have every opportunity not to get paid full and not to work union. and it's very demeaning and sad when they know that they're worth more and they deserve more. Um, did anybody else want to say anything on this topic of scams?
I do,
Go for it.
not necessarily on scams, but I want to just say, we're seeing folks comment in the questions, and I know I get this a lot from my students who are like, well, why would I want to go union? That's like the union work is disappearing. There's all this non-union work. I'm giving up all these opportunities to go union, and then there's nothing there. I audition every single day.
Oh my God, yeah.
Every single day. If the union work is gone, where are these coming from? And they are all union auditions. So it's there. And this is from, all different markets, Los Angeles, Chicago, San Francisco. It's like, it's there. It's there. So there's a lot of bad media out there saying like union work is gone. Union work is disappearing. It's not. Yes,
well, and
there's
that's
a
the
lot.
social media. That's
Yeah,
like
there's
the
a yes,
person out
there is a lot more
right.
non-union work out there. There is, because there's all these sites like Voices and Voice 123 and Fiverr, and like, yes, there is a lot of non-union work out there. That doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of union work out there as well.
I mean,
Exactly.
we live in a place, we live in a time right now where the way we consume media is changing, right? So what inevitably happens when technology shifts and technology changes is the labor world kind of scrambles around it to figure out what's happening, right? And I pour myself over all the things that are out there in the interwebs to try and help my students that aren't, they're going to be non-union or pre-union when they're starting out, and they might have to do these pay-to-play sites. And I see a lot of non-union people that are like, damn, these people taking low rates. Oh, and like, if only we had an organization that could help us collectively bargain to make sure that we all get paid a fair wage. And it's like, that it exists. It's there. And maybe the same auditions that, Tony DeFalco threw a question up there about corp ed work. Is it the same? Are you getting the same opportunities that we used to get? And I think the answer is, well, it all depends on where you're looking. I think a lot of the ways casting is done is different. I think a lot of the ways union actors are getting hired is different. The types of jobs that are out there are different. There might be a lot more non-union stuff that exists now, but who's to say that it's going to be that way in the future? The example that I always use is, look at what's happening right now with Uber and all the rideshare companies, right? They basically put limousine drivers and taxi cab drivers out of work. And now, post-pandemic, people are trying to hire limo drivers and taxi companies because Uber is too expensive with their surge pricing and things like that. So I think it all comes around. I think it all is, and it might be naive of me to say that, but I think that we have a great group of staff and people like everyone you see on this panel that have been kind of fighting and trying to create new ways for all of us to work and to try to kind of raise the bar for everyone, so that, as Brad said so eloquently, we're aspiring to a higher echelon of work. We are trying to create better opportunities, because it all ends up, it lifts everyone up. So
It raise all boats.
yeah.
So just so there was a question, just to reiterate, where can you get union auditions without representation? Because I feel like we just had a long-winded conversation.
As Brad mentioned, Actors Access, casting networks, Backstage. Occasionally I've heard tell of one or two popping up on Casting Call Club.
But should you put yourself on Voice, whatever it's called, 123 or any of those others, and just sit there for free and see if the union jobs are up there? Or does that not happen? I don't know.
From my experience and from what I've heard, there's not a whole lot of union stuff that's out there on the pay to plays.
You can't sit there for free.
Right.
Oh, you cannot sit there hence the
that's
pay
to play.
to play. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what I would say for anybody looking to raise your game and get into the union and try to have audition. I would say check out the franchise agent, submit your demos. I think you gave a range. What was it? $800 to $1,500 for a decent demo. Please don't pay somebody $5,000 for a demo like people were doing. That was crazy town. And if you, like Deb was saying, get with an agent, I said, don't go with an agent unless you've taken classes and have a demo, because you don't want to disappoint. You know, you want to get in and be the professional and compete with their roster. But if you can get an agent off of the franchised agent's listing, get it in a different market. Be the new voice in that market. You know, if you're in Chicago, we're really heavy commercial and corp ed and a little audiobook, but you do it on your own, and not much animation. I get most of my promo from New York. I mean, all of that, but I do it from here. But that, somebody said here, you take into account your, David, take into account your position in the VO community. And that is, again, you're going to go on social media and you're going to be like, man, that chick is such a bitch. All she does is talk down the union and talk up Phi Corps. Deb opened up the door for you. Did you see what I did, Deb? I let you
I
talk
see
about
it.
it.
I hear it. Yeah.
And I have to say, that's one of the things that people screen grab. And I know that's what you're not supposed to do on private groups, but they send it to me and they go, why do people keep saying the wrong thing about Financial Core? And I said, because people think Financial Core is a right that allows them to undercut the union. It's just a federal right for labor. And we could get into the weeds on that, but I'm going to let Deb preach a little.
Get
and then
into
I'll,
the
like,
weeds.
no, well, I mean, I'm going to give some facts, but I'm going to let you know, what do you have to say about
What
it?
I have to say, I think also touches on some of the other questions that I just saw. So hopefully it will kill two birds with one stone, maybe. First, let me start out by saying, you know, people started this union. Like, I kind of make a joke because I don't really know if this is true, but like, you know, back in the day, you know, somebody held up like a flaming, you know, hoop and said, you need to jump through that. That would be cool. We're gonna put that on our TV show. And so they jumped through the flaming hoop and they were like, yeah, that was pretty dangerous and scary. I don't get paid enough to jump through that flaming hoop. And then the other person said, yeah, man, I don't want to jump through the flaming hoop. And so they got together, like most people do at, like, you know, the Teamsters unions, where they're like working the line and they're like, I need a lunch break. This is unfair, right? Actors were so spread out. I'm also in the union at my college, at Columbia College, so spread out. So some people don't even get it, what collective bargaining is. And like, but it is that moment where you're like, this doesn't feel fair. And if I'm going to jump through the flaming hoop, I want to be paid an extra, whatever, $400 to jump through the hoop. Then you're like, all right, well, if I burn myself, at least I'm getting some scratch out of it, right? So that's kind of how unions started. Natalie's like, Deb Dotzer's like, you know, how unions began for toddlers. So, if you want to work Phi Corps or off your card, you've started that race to the bottom, because now the union isn't going to have much leverage if union members can get the right, you know. So this is my personal story. Many moons ago, as I like to say, when I had first started, I had a non-union agent. I had a couple of them. Liked them very nicely. They were very nice to me. I got paid. It was all good. And then I signed at my union franchised agency. And at that time, they were like, we don't do any non-union work. We only do union work. Okie doke, great. I feel ready. I'm good to go. And I had never signed a contract. It was always a one-off, like a one-off for a contract. And one of my non-union agents was like, you know, oh, the Empress Casinos wants to work with you. And I'm like, well, I'm now at this agency. So I talked to my agent and she's like, who's the producer on that? Oh, he's supposed to be a signatory. Ring, ring, ring. Hi, Deb's with us now. You're supposed to be doing it union anyway. Right? So then I booked the job union, paid my non-union agent their fee because that was the right thing to do out of, you know, as well as. Fast forward 2000, SAG-AFTRA went on a strike for the commercials contract. And a friend of mine who was Financial Core. And he's like, you know, well, no, but when I joined, I'm sorry, it's late. I've had a long day. When I signed at my agency, this is what he said to me. I won't get into the strike, but he said, well, what are you going to do with all your non-union clients? right? Somebody posted like, I have a healthy roster of non-union clients. And I was like, well, either they'll, become union clients, or what the work that I did will go to somebody who's non-union and starting out, as it should be. You know what I mean? And hopefully they'll get work and they'll get better, and then they'll, move up the ladder, as most people do at any job they have, right? So he was like, I have to say, two clients, steady clients, both got signators and hired me union. One of them said, you were getting paid more when you were non-union, rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, whatever, at least now I'm getting my pension, my health. And you know what I mean? I don't have to negotiate with you every time. Like, I just did 3 ads for you this week, not. And for me, I wanted to be a professional at what I do. And to me, that meant aspiring to be in the union. I know it seems like an insurmountable thing. I know lots of people think, I can't get into the union. It's, it takes time, cut your teeth, do the work, but, keep sending your stuff to a franchised agent. It will happen. You plant the seeds will grow. FICOR is not a great thing. It's playing both sides to the middle, and it's undercutting the industry, and it's taking away what could be a profession and making it a hobby. That's not cool, right? Even if you're starting out, like I saw Marcus Black was like, how do I want to do those real video games, right? You kind of go, all right, I'm done doing shit for free or like for a little bit of money. I want those big games. So I'm going to aspire to reach out to an agent that does those big games. I'm going to do my homework and find out what kind of a demo I need to put together, that will get me those. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Brad, and be like, but like you find.
No, listen,
like,
I didn't get my first video game auditions until I had been doing this for 6 years. No, 4 or 5 years. So like something you were like, it had been a long time before I got my first like game audition.
Yeah, but you get a mentor with someone who knows what the business is, knows what they're looking for on the demo. You know what I mean? And you get a demo that will present you in your best light, and off you go, or, you put together a YouTube channel like another student did, who's now doing a shit ton of anime and is in SAG-AFTRA in LA, and you showcase your work, right? People are going to see it. You don't have to do something doofy on Fiverr to get there. So that was my non-FICOR spiel. And then also working off card, I've heard about it in LA. All right, I know I'm going on, but
No,
just don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel bad. It's like, it's just mean. It's mean spirited. Like, union actors are taking work away from non-union actors. We're just trying to make a buck. Damn it. Yeah.
it's like we all start out non-union, and we need to get like get a little in the dirt and figure it out. So like if you're an on-camera like actor and you're doing non-union, you bring your whole closet and you learn to bring 3, and then you get to a union set and your wardrobe is provided. It's like these little steps, right? It's the same thing with voiceover. I find like I had a non-union agent who my demo back in the 90s, she was like, this is shit. And it booked me like this incredible, like 3-year contract. And she just couldn't handle the fact that I was going to be a union performer because I was her cash cow. That's great, but time to move on. Like I needed the next step. I needed to make room for that next non-union person to get the experience, perhaps. Not everybody gets to go to school for acting or wants to, or they start out with this huge career in something else, and then they go, I've always wanted to do this. And then they get there, they can't like go backwards. So they're starting from zero. They go to ASC, sorry. And then like figure it out, do their homework, just like you're saying, Deb, like really, I want to do gaming. This is the homework I'm going to do. And then they invest the right amount of money with the right type of coach into a demo. And then they see all the legit agents out there. And yes, Austin, Texas, shout out, right to work state, no franchise agents, a shit ton of union TV theatrical work at times down there. But like Lowe's is being done down there all the time. There is no reason why somebody shouldn't start a franchise agency down there, except for the fact that it's right to work and they don't have to. There's no demand for it. I think that we're in this really hyper magnified world where we see so much non-union work, but there always was non-union work. You just could tell the difference. Now you're like, well, what are they doing behind the studio? And yes, there are trends, not even genre trends, but hey, I'm not 20 anymore. I know I'm not going to work as much as I did in my 30s. So where do I pivot? I'm certainly never going to go non-union just to make a buck. And so the working off the card, somebody said, is it, the dirty secret is people are at home. That is somebody that I hope I'm not friends with, because that would break my heart, that somebody was sitting at home with their gift as a union member and saying, I'm going to take this job instead of going out and getting a real job, a day job, an actor job like we used to do. I've waited tables. I've been to Starbucks. I've worked in a box. We do it all to get to the place where we don't have to. So the working off the card, in the union, that's a Rule 1 violation. And if you're caught, you're brought up on charges. Yes, a union does have its stick, its hammer. And that's not what we're here to tell you is, be a narc, tell everybody, who's doing that. But if anybody's left on this, there's 88 now. We're losing them fast. No. And you're at home and you're under a pseudonym, think twice, because you know what? That job could have been union and now it's non-union and it'll never be union. And the next person won't get to audition for it. And if that's the selfish place that you live in, then that's not a really healthy place to live in. And I'm sorry. And you're right, nobody will find out, but somebody does always find out. We see you on the internet. That's the beauty of the internet. We see everything and it gets turned into the union, and then they go after the client who did it non-union, and you've run off with your money and the client is left maybe saying, you know what? I don't ever want to be a signatory. And that's how we lose signatories, because people are doing it for cheaper. And they're like, oh, well, why do I need to have union? I could do it non-union. Why am I signing this contract with the big bad union? Because the union is a seal of approval. It's that good housekeeping stamp of approval. You audition for a union job, always check to make sure it's a union job, because they can take your audition and upload it without you knowing it. But if it's a union job, you know it was approved because the signatory signed the contract and it's binding by law. Nobody wants to go to arbitration. That's the one thing I hear from producer friends. Arbitration sucks. Doesn't cost me anything. I pay my dues. But that's working off the card. Don't do it, says Amy Burnham. God bless you. The other thing is financial core. And I think this is where the misinformation has just spiraled. There are people out there who are doing on-camera work and voiceover work under every contract, financial core, and telling you what you want to hear and pushing back and taking and taking and taking. And it's so hard, because we talk to these people and we say, you know what? Why do you have to do that? Why do you have to tear down the union, 100 years nearly of people working for a fair wage and working condition? Those people will always exist. And we have to silence them and not engage with them. I think that's a beautiful thing, Deb. The non-union space is for that non-union performer. But the Phi Core status, when a producer says, hey, Natalie, could you do this for me? Just maybe go Phi Core. What did they give up is what I want to know. They're still getting paid, the producer. Why should I take less? And I've had casting directors say, could you do this special project? How about if you went Phi Core? And I'm like, I'm sorry. What are you taking for less? You get to keep working every single solitary day, writing or producing or casting. I have to win that audition. So no, I'm not going to sell myself out so you can make more on my talent while I make less. But the other thing is the actual legal part of financial core is a humongous loophole in our union. if you take anything away from this, just know financial core status is a status that does not exist in our union. It is a federal labor law that says, I don't want to support this union, UAW, CWA, IBEWs, political contributions, political endorsement, political PACs, right? That's redundant because it's PAC is political. Anyway, so when you say, I'm financial core, you resign your membership from the union. So all the benefits of the union, the protections of staff, all of that stuff vanishes. All the perks, the 20% off Actors Access, the 40% off IMDb, the 18% off AT&T, all of that disappears. That collectiveness disappears. You're on your own. Fine. But we don't. Constitutionally, SAG-AFTRA is of its members, and the members decided that we were not going to be a political union. We do not endorse. We do not give money. Therefore, when you go financial core, you're actually paying less 4% of the initiation fee and less 4% of the dues, about, plus or minus, because that is how much it costs for us to be a charter of the AFL-CIO, which gives us unionplus.org benefits and all other types of security that our union brother and sisters in other labor unions provide us. So when you go financial core and you resign your status and you start promoting it, there's no such thing as SAG core. That's not an actual thing. We've asked casting directors and they've listened because we don't have jurisdiction over casting directors. They work for the producers. They've taken it down. You are either a member of this union or you're a non-member. And if you're non-member, you check non-union. FI-CORE was designed in 1963 at the Beck decision. It was a Supreme Court decision that says you do not have to be a union member of that union for political reasons. And you still get the benefits of the contract when you work. And that's it. So it's really a loophole for us. And actually, it's union busting. And it's bottom feeding. So for all the people that are out there singing its praises, there won't be any more union auditions. If we all decide that we're going to resign our union status and become a fee-paying non-member, there won't be a union. There won't be a need for it because we've all taken less. And if we leave with anything, I hope that we know that we want to aspire to a higher echelon, Brad. That's my new bumper sticker, because I've never used the word echelon. Anybody else want to say anything about
Such a
FI-CORE?
magnificent turn of phrase.
It really is. It really is. Does anybody else have anything that they need to pontificate?
I think when we're talking about FI-CORE and people that are working off the card and that kind of stuff,
Two separate things.
Right. Two separate things, but I think for me, they fall under a similar category in terms of for me, it's a personal sense of I've fought for this status. I worked my ass off to get to where I am in my career. And there are thousands of auditions you don't get for, or hundreds of auditions or whatever for every job you do get. And that's true for whoever you are, right? What even if you have an amazing booking rate, there's still jobs you don't get. And all of that work that I put in, all the money that I've paid, all the gear that I've bought over the years, that's worth something to me. And my union membership is that value. And somebody asked, why is talking about FI-CORE so taboo? I don't think it's taboo. I think that
you're looping yourself.
We
He's the
muted
host.
him.
I
Yeah,
can't.
there we go.
He muted himself.
All right.
Wait, are you
He's
there,
gone.
Brian? Okay, you're gonna come back and you're
That
gonna
was
finish
kind
that.
of
There.
crazy.
I like the dance
There.
beat, though.
Are you back? There
I'm
you go.
back.
All right.
All right.
My webcam, I'm here. My webcam, I think, just died on me.
Oh,
You're still pretty.
Oh, thank you.
Are we waiting for you to finish your thought and come back on, or are we?
I don't know how much you heard, so I don't.
Just that you were finishing up that you spent a lot of money, you've invested a lot in your career. Why would you undercut that?
Yeah, right. And I mean, I think that that's, it's a point of personal integrity. And, those of us that are active union members are actively fighting not just for ourselves, but for everyone. And I think that's the difference in mentality. I think that there's a lot of people out there that say, yeah, I just want to work. Yeah, we all want to work. And the volume of work that you are getting does not necessarily speak to the quality of work that you're getting. And those are two different things. And I think that's important to remember when you're trying to weigh the non-union versus union. Yeah, you may work less, but hopefully that quality and the value that you are getting out of it and the value your producers are getting out of it is higher.
Thank you. And everybody appreciated your dance mix, by the way. Um, you guys, I'm going to make I'm adding one last thing into the chat. So for those that want to go to YouTube, if you do. So SAG-AFTRA does a ton of these live video streams, and there have been things on audiobooks. We've talked to some of the most amazing audiobook narrators. We've done interactive and gaming. We have a commercials webinar coming up on the commercials contract, a boot camp. And Chicago is launching a new organizing mechanism for our Corp Ed regional code that will have new terms just for our local. And it's really exciting to have member activists and people out there talking about the professionalism and what they're doing. I have to say there's also an amazing tech summit that was up there on the YouTubes, the SAG-AFTRA TV. And to understand how much organizing we're doing in the AI, machine learning, innovation space, that's next level. So for the person I so appreciate, I feel like I got in to voiceover like at that sweet spot where there were 3 networks and then a couple of cable. And it is harder in a celebrity influencer. Oh, we also have an influencer agreement now too. But in all of this, the union will exist as members continue to fight for those fair wages and working conditions. And as long as anyone on this panel and those associated with us are doing it, we'll always have we'll always have the rising tide. I don't know if we're done with our panel, but I feel like that was a really just having that conversation kind of was like a good, realistic, humbling hug way to end.
Yeah, I mean,
I
the
need to
union
sit
the
there for
union is
15
only
moments.
as good as the union is only good as its members. So if you have to participate, you have to, want to learn things. Like, we are all just actors who belong to this union. We do not know all the ins and outs of all the contracts. The website has wonderful resources, sagaftra.org, all of the contracts, all the information, that stuff is on there. If you want to know how much a video game session pays, or how much an animation session pays, or what the residual rate is for commercials, that stuff is on there, along with all those video resources that you have for education. And this is not just available to members, it is available to anyone who goes on the website. So for those of you who are non-union, who are trying to become union members, all of those resources are there for you. And you can see the things that you would get by becoming union and the benefits that you would get, and just compare the numbers. Look at it. What do you want to make?
Right. What pool do you want to swim in? Come swim with us. Come swim in the big kids. And it is interesting, and it's so hard to not see people and hear people and have the recognition back and be like, yeah, all right. But there are existing members who don't go to the site and don't know what they're missing out on. There are existing members that don't take in a webinar, or even we have a podcast series where we talk to a variety of topics. You can find the podcast series. Everything is online now because we know that's where our membership lives. It just takes a little bit of curiosity, and to do exactly what Deb was saying, it's a business, right? So knowing how hard we all are working just to keep going in the union space, it's going to take that much more. It took 5 years. It took me 5 years to get into the union. I remember wanting it so badly and just finally falling on the floor crying when I got my first check because I couldn't believe I was getting paid for what I love to do. So, and I mean, actually paid. Just so you know, the commercials contract, you have 15 working days to get paid. That's insane. Nobody gets paid. No vendor gets paid in 15 business days. Corp Ed, it's 30-day calendar. What do you got for audiobooks and for animation gaming? What's your timelines for payment? Are they in the contract at all? Or is it just like,
I think it's about the same.
yeah?
I think it's 12 or 15 days, something like that.
Oh, animation is 12. Animation is,
Yeah.
it could even be 5 if it's a feature, because in TV theatrical, animation is a 5-day turn. You get paid in 5 days.
Oh, and let me just add that if a client doesn't pay in a timely fashion, your agent can get in touch with the union and be like, okay, now you need to be the bad guy, and we need some late fees and all sorts of stuff because we weren't paid. Whereas the non-union space, either you're negotiating and be like, can you pay me? Could you pay me? Why I haven't gotten paid? Oh shit, I guess I'm never getting paid. Or a non-union agent who may not be that aggressive because they're like, well, they paid in the past and I don't want to step on their toes. So, you know, all of that is not just having a union franchised agent, which of course, you know, but you know, Kathy Byrne, the lovely and talented Kathy Byrne, who's the TV and theatrical rep, right? TV film rep at the union office. She comes and speaks to various classes that we all do. And I had a student who was an extra, which was like a non-union, right? He was an extra in some one of the TV shows in town. And he's like, yeah, I mean, we didn't get paid. And she's like, well, who is oh, yeah, I know them. I'll make sure you get paid. So Kathy always says that the union is also a resource for you as a non-union performer too. If you're like, this seems kind of squirrely, you know, you can check it out with the union. I mean, they're there to educate you and to lead you toward wanting to become a member when the time comes, and it will come. If this is a business you really want to be a part of, it will happen. Might take a little bit longer. You know, there are a handful of overnight sensations, but if you look at somebody who's like a big star right now and you go through their IMDb, you'll be like, they were in that, they were in that, they were in that, and you'll see them there. Oh, they're the dude bouncing the basketball. In the background, it was one line, right? You know, it takes a while. I mean, sure, some people can be overnight sensations. I got to join Actors Equity, super easy. Talent scouted, bing, bang, boom. The next thing I know, I'm like in a union, and I was 24 years old. Had no idea what was going on. It was not easy getting into SAG-AFTRA, you know? Some people, their first job they book, it's a union gig, and bada bing, bada boom, they're, you know, smooth sailing. So, you know, everybody's got their own story and their own path, you know? I guess my 2 thoughts to leave you with are know your own worth, which I think I started off with. And then the other one is control what you can control, right? It's a business. So do your due diligence. If you want to start and you want to join a pay-to-play site, do some research, ask some questions, make sure if something that looks squirrely, it probably is, and check in with somebody, you know? Like I said, you know, we can, if something goes to the acting studio, one of us can easily answer it for you.
I like that. What's your 2 takeaways? Natalie, what's your 2 takeaways that you want to leave everybody with?
My 2 takeaways from
What do you want to leave everybody? 2 things.
You know, this wasn't necessarily created to be a pro-union webinar. It ended up definitely being one just because of the people who are involved. We've all had really good experiences. So I don't know. I think that's something to take away. I do have to say one thing, which is that, yeah, I know I mentioned in the beginning that I've been a union member since 1988 and blah, blah, blah. You can make fun of me for like coming out of the womb and being a union member, whatever. But the other day I got a check in the mail from something I did in July of 1991.
Wow.
And that is all because of the union. Okay. No, it wasn't a huge check. It was like $200. Like, I mean, come on, that's nice. Like, I hardly even remember doing that. I won't tell you how
Yeah.
old I was, 'cause then you can do math. But yeah, those are my takeaways, I guess.
Brad, you got any takeaways? You want to leave?
Yeah. So being an actor is hard.
Oh, yeah.
Living the life of an actor is difficult. We go through a lot of rejection. We have to pay a lot of money up front for classes and microphones and headshots and demos and all this stuff. So why would you put an obstacle in front of you to make it harder? The union makes it easier. It helps you negotiate contracts. It gives you a potential for pension and health. It gives you discounts on cell phones. But why make it harder for yourself?
I hope you write these down. These are good little pearls of wisdom.
So I don't know if that's 2 takeaways, but like, it's hard. Being an actor is hard. I've been an actor for, almost 20 years, and it has never, ever been easy. I've had wonderful successes, and I've had years go by where I haven't booked shit.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to understand that it's hard. And having the union behind me in those fallow years was really great. And knowing that I had the potential to have that next job get me out of the hole because it would be a union job, that's great potential. So
That's awesome. Thank you, Brian.
Oh man, I can't come up with anything to keep up with you all. It's just you're dropping these knowledge bombs and like
Because you're the youngster.
philosophical shit. No, I think I'm very much in the same mindset as Brad. There's no easy answers. And what I see getting sold to people a lot is I can make 6 figures in voiceover if I just follow these 6 easy steps. And that's all bullshit. Is there a business model there that you can follow that can make you money? Sure, absolutely. But there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I guess I'm just going to go back to what I said at the very beginning of this, which is what kind of work do you want to do, both in terms of the quality and the type of work that you want to put out in the world, and what do you want to do to try to get that work? Is it trying to find someone that believes in you, that's going to pitch you, that your work goes into your craft, or are you going to be somebody that your work is solely going into balancing your budget sheets and chasing a bottom line? Because that's what it ends up being. You are running your business, and I want to have my career as a voice actor, not necessarily as a business owner.
Yeah. So, we had such a great night. Look at this. We dropped out. We got back together. Everybody logged back in.
My computer blew up at some point.
Your computer. This is just Deb's cat's making an appearance.
Time to feed the cat.
I hope the cat's getting residuals.
Yeah, he's a SAG-AFTRA member.
I just want to say, you guys, every one of us has websites, or every one of us is on social media. You've asked over 50 questions. You guys rock. And Brian and everybody's been feverishly answering them. I hope this was an enlightening conversation. It covered so much, but I think we ended on this really wonderful note of what the takeaways are for you guys. And I appreciate your expertise and your insight and your passion and your humanness. Like, you guys are just beautiful people. We need that coming out of this pandemic. We need each other. And don't forget, you get a 10% off on your class at Acting Studio. What is it?
Acting Studio Chicago.
I was like, ASC. What does it stand for these days? But Acting Studio Chicago.
Did you say it was for VO or all classes? I think it might.
I don't know. You think you need to
it's
check
VO.
your
It's
thing.
just
It's
VO
voiceover classes for the summer, so I believe it is not an infinite
I really recommend. I've taken Brad's class. It is insane. I had so much fun. I will never do gaming or animation.
and I'm teaching one on July 25th. It's a Sunday, and I believe that there are about 5 slots left. So
Oh,
take advantage.
10% off. And are you doing it online or in person? Because
I'm doing it online, doing it via Zoom. So my guess is by the fall we may be back in studio, but this is still on over Zoom.
So like Angela, you're in Hawaii. You could take Brett's class over Zoom. Just saying.
yeah. So I
Exactly.
think I want to thank everybody. We are at the top of the hour. You guys did amazing. Thank you all so much. Follow us on social if you want. Don't cyberbully, but and be kind to yourself and stick up for yourself out there. Like, you don't get a penny a word. Say no. This is the union rate. This is what I want. Make yourself, stand up. I love all the comments of people going, "This is what I did." It's awesome. So thank you all so much. I guess
Thank you guys.
Thank you,
Thanks for
everyone.
moderating.
Thanks everybody for
Rachel.
coming.
Bye.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks,
Natalie.
ASC.
Bye,
Yes,
Brad. Bye,
thanks, Ed. Thanks for
Deb.
being Rachel.
Bye,
Bye.
Brian.
Are
Thank
we
you.
going? Is that like
Yeah.
it? Do we just go? Does Rachel?
Yeah,
need
Do
to
we
do a
just
wrap up?
shut it off like we did 5
Shut
minutes
it
into the
down.
panel?
Yeah.
And 5,
You
4,
don't have to
3,
go home, but you can
2.
not stay here.
Yeah, the lights are on. I'm going to go to another Zoom. Bye, guys. I love you.
Adios.
Bye, love you
Adios,
too.
Lionel. Good to hear from you. All right. Bye,
All
everyone.
right, I guess I'm going
All
too,
right.
because I got to feed this cat before it eats my face.
That cat.